I'm Terry Murphy with Realty Times, Women in Business, Women in Real Estate in the men's room with Murph. And today we have, I think, one of the world's best discussions and approaches from his book, Time Warrior. Stephen, we call you Steve, it's Steve Chandler. He wrote, he's the best-selling author. I just learned 35 books, a little bit of an underachiever, right? 25 languages. Speaker, business consultant, major universities, Fortune 500 companies, two-time winner of the Audio of the Year Award from King Feature Syndicates, coaching prosperity school. I guess you just don't ever have any time off, Steve, right?
I try.
And as a master coach, well, I found this book to be so riveting. I got very brave. I just want to share with everybody that, because I'm not that brave, but I went out there and I just said, what if I could speak to him? What if I could feature him and share his amazing, as we said, notoriously unorthodox personal growth as a guru? And I just have to say, this was one of the many different ways to look at time management. And I really think that sharing your message will help those of us that have been frustrated with linear thinking. Time Warrior is a non-linear approach to dealing with time, guidebooks, linear thinking. Tell us a little bit about how you got started writing on this particular subject.
Well, it came from my own life because I was terrible at time management. So I took courses in it and read books and had my own coach me. And then the people I was coaching in my coaching sessions or my training sessions with groups and teams, I began to teach back to them what I learned from my coach and what worked for me. So that's what got me into using time management as a subject for seminars and talks and writing that book eventually.
Well, the book is interesting because it really talks us about a style tracker versus a time tracker. And when we address linear thinking, especially as a coach, we know that there's evolutions of organizing your life and your business so that you can have a life and a business. And that does require some planning. But you talk about the nonlinear vision and the style tracker versus the time tracker. And one of the quotes that just stood out was that time warriors slow way down. And for somebody who's accomplished as much as you have in the time that you've been on the earth and continue to prosper and share this messaging and this vision, what was your turning point that said, okay, forget the planners and the whole thing? What was it that happened in your spirit that changed it?
Well, what I learned about slowing down, whenever I introduce the idea of slowing down to a high achieving client, coaching client, they don't want it. You know, their thought is, if I slow down, I'll fall behind. I need to go faster. I want someone to coach me on how to do more and go faster. But really, slowing down doesn't mean you do less. It means you're more mindful about what you're doing. So, am I doing things that are in alignment with what I want to create in my profession? Or am I just kind of responding to every email that comes in and every text and every call and trying to please everyone in my world? If I will slow down and connect in the morning with what are my priorities, what do I really want to accomplish, and how does my activity today match up with that, I can make different choices throughout the day. But that requires slowing down, being contemplative, meditative even, and have periods of time where I'm not just engaged with everything. So slowing down doesn't sound like the right thing to people who want to get more done or become more prosperous. But the part of the mind that slows down is this little ego mind that has worried thoughts and reactionary thoughts. And you slow that down, you fall back into your wisdom, your higher self, the bigger picture. and you realize getting involved with this person who's emailing me is not a good use of time. And so you start to sort out your to-do list with what's going to advance my career, what's going to get me customers and clients, and what is not. So that's what I mean by slowing down, and that's what changed everything for me. What am I really up to today? What do I want to create? And get in touch with the inner creativity that's always there, rarely used by people who spend the day problem solving, connecting, and all of that.
We call it reactionary versus productive.
Yeah, that's it.
And you get into bed and you're exhausted, and you're literally exhausted, and you don't know what you got done. And part of the reason for that is what I extrapolated from it's 101 chapters. I mean, now you can see that the book is not War and Peace, but they're short chapters, so it really distills the message in each chapter. But you talk about warrior versus warrior, because that is total waste of energy.
Yeah, that's right. The worried mind that keeps ruminating and worrying and worrying. When I would bring that to my coach, he would say, okay, what action needs to be done? Let's stop worrying. What's the next action? And I would stop like, well, I was kind of addicted to worrying about this situation.
Wow.
And now you're asking me what needs to be done. What would you like to do? What action do you want to take? What is your conscious purpose in this situation? And let's take that action. And so that takes it out of the linear life of I bring my worries from yesterday to today, and it's just a long line of one darn thing after another. And it stops the linear framework. And non-linear, as you saw in the book, means either now or not now. And that is not linear. That's just a question. Are you going to do it now or not now? And if you're going to do it later, when? Exactly. Because put it in the calendar. Now it's out of your mind. You know it's scheduled. Your mind's freed up to create the life you want. Because that's really the objective of the book, is to have people with a warrior mindset about their distractions, all their people-pleasing that goes on all day. I had a client whose mother called her 7 times a day, and she was CEO of a company.
Oh,
And she said, I don't know what to do about that. And I said, why do you allow your mother, why do you take 7 calls a day? Oh, and her answer, here's a CEO trusted with the welfare of the company, and her answer was, she's my mom. Okay, good. You sound like a 3-year-old. Have a talk with your mom. Let her know what your business is like. Let her know what you can do and can't do.
we teach what we allow. Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. You
Yeah,
got it.
we teach what we allow. Well, I wanted to just, if you don't mind, I'd like to ruminate on the word addicted, because in my work, I've seen, especially I deal with both genders, but specifically you'll find it in women, that because we already have the brain that allows for, I don't want to call multitasking, but awareness, because we're more collaborative in our nature. We have to be as mothers and whatever. But the biggest challenge we have is the addiction to busyness versus
Yeah,
the vision of productivity.
that's right. The vision of making a real difference in my business today, um, being highly conscious of what's most important on my list of activities, totally aware of it. If I have to give it a rating. And the addiction to busyness is a neural pathway. It's literally, neuroscientists will tell you that any kind of habit or addiction has a neural pathway in the brain. So it pulls you in that direction. Pulls you to, oh, I have 20 minutes. What can I get busy doing? And If you want to counter that and have a different kind, a simpler, more mindful life, then you have to start a new path in the brain. It's like learning a new language
Exactly.
or learning a new musical instrument. You can learn new ways of being. And the greatest problem my clients have with time management is they believe that their habits or lines of development are part of a permanent personality they have. They think everything's permanent. This is what I'm like. I'm not organized.
Yeah.
I don't do this. And part of my work as a coach and part of what my coach had to do for me is that's only a habit. That's who do you need to be? Who do you want to be for your life to work?
Exactly.
And
Douglas Rushkoff brings that up in his book, Future Shock. I mean, Present Shock, and he talks about digiphrenia, and that is true. You know, we're so used to that interruption, that fragmentation of
yeah,
getting check marks, which are great, but at the end of the day, you're working, but you're not working to live. You're living to work, and that eventually, and this is my observation, is that you're frustrated and you're not as happy as you could be because work is wonderful, but nobody tells you today's your day off, you know, and especially if you're an entrepreneur. You do talk about your coach, and having been in the interview chair for a lot, it's really interesting when an expert has another expert helping them. Could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with a coach and how that coach has helped you helped others? Because that's essentially what has been transmuted here, right?
yes, I'm a real believer in coaching. I've seen it work so well with individuals who are salespeople or have their own business or people in corporations or other forms of organizations. Um, it is, it boils down to two minds are better than one. And a coach has not always greater expertise, but greater objectivity. So if I'm fooling myself with stories, or like the client I had who said she's my mom, so that's as far as she went in possibility thinking of how she could solve this 7 calls a day problem. The minute she thought she's my mom, she got stuck in the emotion of that and couldn't see any possibility. So what a coach can do is see possibility where the client can't, because the client is buying her own stories or his own stories about life and what a victim I am and how hard it is in these circumstances, what they're doing to me. And the coach can see you have options that you don't see. You have blind spots. And that was very true with my coach. My life was a mess. I had bankruptcy. I had uh, everything went south. I had full custody of 4 kids.
Oh,
I was trying to hold that together while doing a business and very low self-esteem. And he said, we're going to change who you're being in life if you have the openness. Now, you don't have to believe in it at the beginning. You just have to be open to the possibility, and then we'll go from there. And he changed my life
yeah.
completely.
That is the beauty of a coach, because a lot of people think coaching, well, and there is, excuse me, there are some coaches that tell you what to do. In this
Yeah.
case, it's a much broader, higher level coaching, and not that
Yes.
we're trying to sell coaching, but you do talk about um, multitasking, time tracking, subservient behaviors, especially with women. And as a matter of fact, Brene Brown talks about it as well, that you can't say no. Oh,
Yeah.
sure, you can have 4 dozen cupcakes in an hour. I mean, really, not that that would happen to anybody, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
It's that need to please because it ties to our self-value. But at the end of the day, it's your life, right?
Yes.
And you're
Yes.
designing
So
it.
yeah. So it's okay to be dedicated to a life of service. Like I want to serve my clients, want to serve my children in the role of being a good parent. But that doesn't mean that I don't include myself in the picture. I want to include myself in that picture. I want to have well-being, self-care, time off, not huge blocks of time that scare me that I won't be productive, but gentle time breaks here and there that I never even thought to do because I didn't include myself in my devotion to serving other people. I was actually pleasing rather than serving. They're two completely different things.
Good analogy. That's very good analogy because the pleasing part is eternally vigilant. It never ends.
Right, right.
But I really admire people.
Until you see it for what it is, and then you have the ability to back away, and you can see that habit of pleasing absolutely everybody I communicate with is optional. I don't have to keep feeding that habit with repetition. I can go the other way.
And doesn't that though speak to your self-value? Again,
Yeah,
I'm okay, even though I can't please 1,752 people, right?
right.
Okay, because you do talk about overwhelm in chapter 4, and I thought that was particularly resonant with our tribe here. We are in overwhelm. If you look at what is going on, I mean, years ago there was 5 channels and there was AM and FM, and now there's just a cacophony of just tons of information coming at us all the time and obligations. And would you not agree? False pretenses, what we see on social media that looks perfect and organized and
Oh
lovely,
yeah.
elegant, and we have a junk drawer kind of thing. So talk to us about overwhelm and how you as a master coach would address that.
Well, overwhelm is a label I'm giving today's reality. And I want to ask, what am I going to do with what's occurring? So if I'm open to every news, every little beep on my phone, and if I'm only allowing input all day long, it will be overwhelmed. If I'm willing to have periods where I'm just with myself, meditatively or reading a good novel or watching a Hallmark movie, which is a high form of meditation these days because the intellect doesn't have to engage.
That's correct.
It's I can change my relationship to overwhelm, and the better you get at that, it starts now to look like opportunity, a multitude of opportunities, some of which I'm choosing not to engage in because I want to live a life of simplicity and power and making a real difference instead of making, like you said, 1,001 little tiny pleasing moments for everybody that they forget immediately.
There you go.
It just disappears. But if I make a major difference, if I have a client that I help with something, if I'm selling a house, if I get someone into a house they really love and at a good price, that's making a difference instead of overwhelm. And I want to see my life through a different lens.
And so
And
what I'm hearing from you is it's self-imposed. So I didn't mean to interrupt you
yes,
but
it
it's
is.
self-imposed because I'm giving value to all of these things that don't have value back to my life. And I don't mean being
That's it.
selfish, but selfless doesn't work here.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Okay.
But I don't want to feel guilty about that once it's identified. I don't want to say, oh, look what I'm doing. That's one more wrong thing I'm doing in life. I want to see it as, oh, that's interesting. What else is possible? What is it possible to be another way in life? Not do another thing, but at the deep level of being. And that's where good coaching comes in or good mentoring.
Oh,
Anyone who's proud about, I'm doing this all by myself, I don't need help, and is afraid to ask for help, however you ask for it, even someone in your organization who you think might be able to help you. I don't want to look like I need help. Get out of the self-obsessive fascination with my own personality and let it fall away and get some help.
That's a really good point for, especially for women in business, because we're expected. I love to use the analogy of Ginger Rogers to dance backwards in heels. And yet, but smart women, and that's why we have the whole series, Smart Women, Smarter Choices, understand the power of delegation.
Yeah.
I mean, and I have this conversation all the time. Okay, so no one else can pick up that piece of paper better than you. Just
Yep.
help me out there. So you're right. It's about being aware and focused, and then being selective. Would you agree?
Yes.
About what you're giving your attention to. And I think a lot of, I'll say women, but a lot of women will not know how to say no without hurting feelings because they are collaborative. And so one of the best advice I ever got was not yes yet.
Yeah, that's good.
Because as a high, I'm a high I, you can't tell. And I want to say, oh, sure, I can do that. And then you got to think about the fact you've got 200 things on the calendar.
Yeah.
And yes, you can do it. But if you give yourself that break, maybe that mental break you're talking about, the slowdown, would that be accurate there?
That's it. I learned a lot about that from Byron Katie.
I read that.
Yeah, and she has a major portion in her spiritual teaching about learning to say a graceful no so that feelings aren't hurt. People really understand where you're coming from. They get that you care for them. This has nothing to do with how much I care for you, how much I admire you, support you. But as far as me going and helping you with that or doing that for you, no. I have other commitments that I would have to break to do that, and I don't want to break those commitments. And neither will I ever break a commitment to you.
Oh,
I'm not able to do it.
That's beautiful, because it does speak to the fact that if I have high integrity with my word, I wouldn't compromise.
That's right. And that takes practice because when you
Ooh,
grow up, you are trained to get out of things through low integrity with your word. I had 3 daughters that I raised. Will you have this mess cleaned up in the living room by the time my friends arrive? Yes, yes. And they full well know, or on some level they know they're not going to do it, but the lack of integrity has the parent go away. Okay, good. And the parent, and their only goal is, what does he want to hear? It's not, what can I follow through with and really do? So we have to learn that all over in adulthood. It is this thing called true commitment, or having my word be something people can actually count on.
yeah, which goes back to trust.
Yeah,
The whole trust. I mean, we speak a lot about being safe, and that doesn't mean hiding. It just means what's safe. If I can count on you, if I can count on me, and then I can count on you, then there's a much more beautiful space for trust. I really like that on overwhelm, because it's a choice how we look at things. And like you said, when you slow down, you can say, okay, this doesn't have to be done this very minute. What am I teaching my children by my behavior? Miguel Ruiz does that beautifully in the 4 Agreements. One of my other, obviously, especially at this time of the year, is everybody's resetting their space to 0. Chapter 8 deals with, why am I not sticking with my goals? And you talk about a professional football player, and you make it work. Do you want to just elaborate on that a little bit?
well, why I'm not sticking with my goals or my New Year's resolutions, or this year I'm going to do more of this and less of that, is it's not a true commitment. It's an intention.
Ah,
And intentions are fine, but if I really mean it and I really want to do it, then it has to include a system I put in that would, a structure or a system that would guarantee it. So I'm going to do my Tai Chi movement every morning before I go to work, because it gives me more energy. I feel more flexible. It's now proven that it cures depression, anxiety, Tai Chi, or anything you do, yoga, Latin dance. I just got a video for that, which is, I don't want you to have to picture me doing it, but it's now, okay, I'm going to do that now. Okay, so how are you going to make sure that happens? What's your system? Well, I'm going to put it in my calendar. I'm going to put a sticky note on the coffee machine. It says, "Go downstairs and dance." And I'm going to put it up, and I'm going to take that, and I'm going to do it, or I'm going to do something. Sometimes I had to uh, have somebody be an accountability
Wow.
partner with me.
Yes.
Like, I will email you every day on how many minutes I spent selling, because one of the reasons my sales aren't where I want them to be, if I look at my day planner, if I keep a diary of how I spend my time, the average salesperson on the sales teams I trained only spent 1.5 hours a day actually selling. They were doing all kinds of things that they thought wouldn't hurt the sales process. So they were using can't hurt to go on LinkedIn, can't hurt to do this. But what are you doing that you know actually connects with a potential customer and client, gives them an opportunity to buy or become your client? How many of your activities do that? Because that's where your sales come from. And usually the person says, "Oh, I never thought of that. I just sort of try to do things that I think can't hurt or might help," or instead of, "I know this is what works. So
Mhm.
I'm going to make sure I have a system for that."
Well, I just want to punctuate here, emphasize, is that we're not talking about throwing away day planners and whatever. We're talking
Oh,
about being intentional with where you put your attention, with your intention, and then how you block it. It's interesting though, when you have a non-negotiable, like I'm going to do Tai Chi every morning, I'm going to take a walk with the dog. When you do that, you draw a line in the sand, then the universe responds uh,
yes,
because it's a non-negotiable. Now,
yeah,
that doesn't mean you can't be flexible, but for you, it's just part of your habitual routine on how you live your life. So I want to emphasize the fact that you give yourself power by doing that little blocking piece. And I know a lot of my clients have trouble time blocking, especially high eyes, because they want to be available and do all these things. But really, when you talked about the can't hurt, I really like that. To me, that's a real focus. That's a real target on
yeah,
can't hurt if I just check this for a minute. And we know from a digiphrenic standpoint that every interruption is 23 minutes, 17 seconds. So boom, I mean, you do that 4 times, you've lost half a day. Um,
yeah,
I really like what you talked about when you were discussing your coach and accountability. Accountability is not weakness. Accountability is, to me, transparency and authenticity. I mean, if you really commit to anything, and we're talking about focus here, about literally changing your life, because you talk about wake up on how I want to serve the world. And it's not, and yes, we all have dishes and laundry and, walking the dog and all that stuff. But how do you want to serve the world? Because we all come into this thing with 70 trillion cells, right? That will have an impact on other human beings if we're social. So for you, when you talk about how I want to serve the world, that changes how you approach your day. Can you
yes.
tell us a little bit about for you? I mean, do you have your top goals posted somewhere so that you see them? How do you measure them?
Yeah, uh, and it works differently for every person. Do what works for you. Um, I have a morning ritual where I reconnect with what I'm really up to in life. And then as I create my to-do list for tomorrow or whatever, or for today, whatever works, I actually consciously ask myself which of these activities are in alignment with what I'm up to, and which of them are not. Which of them are just pleasing other people, or I don't want to hurt my cousin's feelings because he asked me, "Oh, you're such a good writer. Will you write the invitation to my party for me, and I don't want to hurt his feelings. And that's where the graceful no comes in. I don't see where that fits what I'm up to. Now, if it's on the weekend and I'm in social time and I allow myself for flexible open time. And so if I have open time, someone asks for a favor, can you come over and help me unload this? And sure, I don't have anything else I've made a commitment to do. So you don't just become robotic or unsocial or monomaniacal.
Yeah.
Uh, you leave space for doing anything you want. And that's really healthy. The brain really loves that because when you get back into one of your commitments, now it's commitment time. Now I can focus on this. I've had my time. I had my weekend. I had my morning. And it's easier to focus than if the whole thing is all mixed up.
Again, I'm hoping that our listeners hear this, that it is about self-valuation, self-evaluation. If I value my time, which is the only thing we have,
Yeah.
bifurcating it all over the place is not helpful for you. And you're supposed to be in this life in this time serving others, but you have to serve you so that you can serve others. I just think that's a brilliant point that you brought up. And before we let you go, I think another issue is, okay, chapter 12. So why am I still procrastinating? I'll bet you have
Yeah.
something to say about that.
One of the reasons is out of a misguided sense of keeping myself safe or keeping my freedom intact, I rebel against having to do something. Oh, I have to do the dishes, or I have to do my taxes, or I have to fill out this report. Well, who's then there's this part of us that wants to be free, who says, well, who says I have to? I don't have to do it now. And it becomes a subconscious habit to anything given to me I put off. Yeah, yeah, thank you. I'll get that done. I don't even want to think about it right now. And so what I would do with clients and what was done with me was, why not do it now? So, for example, I had a client who was going to write a letter to her mother explaining her life and because her mother couldn't hear it when they talked, and they had this big relationship issue that was so distracting for her day. And she said, I know I'm going to write that letter to her, and so she can understand. And I said, and she said, I keep procrastinating. And I said, okay, so do you want to have a life where procrastination is your habit? No, I don't. Great. So go write the letter and call me when it's over. Call me when you finish it and put it in the envelope. Oh, aren't you supposed to be coaching me right now? I am coaching you. I am coaching you.
Yes.
I'll be here. I'm just going to sit here until your letter is written because you're going to start a new neural pathway called do it now. If there's anything that can be done now, do it now. And pretty soon that becomes your go-to. Can you do this for me? Well, I don't have a meeting until 20 minutes. Yes, I can. Great. Take your time. Thank you. And I'll do it. Because and at first it's very uncomfortable to make commitments, to create a new habit. But over time it becomes automatic. And anything that comes at me, I'll do it now. It's done. That's non-linear. Linear is I'll try to put it somewhere.
Mm.
Even if I don't have to put it in the future, procrastination. That's how I roll.
And it's just I'm telling you, this book became one of my absolute favorites. And I know I've said that to you before. You talk about love, energy, and humor. And what I loved was the quote. This is Time Warrior, in case you're wondering, and you can tell I've already massacred the book. But Carlos Castaneda, the quote, the basic difference between an ordinary man and a warrior is that the warrior takes everything as a challenge, while an ordinary man takes everything either as a blessing or a curse. It's all mindset. And
Yeah.
I really love what you put here when we talked about procrastination. The time warrior goes to war with challenges or cuts away all the beliefs that create linear time. What's left is timeless. And when you think about people's lives and their timeline, the kind of beginning and the expiration, it's the joyous moments, it's the experiential moments. Accumulation is, it's a human thing. We can accumulate stuff forever. But when you really want to get into time, what does everybody say? I wish I had more time. And so
Yeah.
what I think you've done brilliantly here, and so differently and so refreshing, and I will say unorthodox, is Time Warrior. Again, we've got other books. You've written so many of them. This one's obviously a bestseller, but you also wrote Death Wish, Crazy Good, 100 Ways to Motivate Yourself, really, and plus 30 other books. I'm going to encourage people to check out your book, Time Warrior. I found it to be remarkable, and it is available on Audible as well. And then will you tell us a little bit about your coaching program for the coaches out there?
It's a program that does not certify people on how to coach, teach them how to coach. It's for coaches who've already got the skill of coaching that they've learned somewhere, either from their own coach or some program that they've been trained in. It's a program only for building your coaching business, only for creating clients. And my newest book is called How to Get Clients. And it's from the school. So you can, and I have an online version of the school. So you can pay 10 grand and attend the school, or you can buy How to Get Clients for $19, and you'll learn the same thing if you engage fully.
Yeah.
I recommend the book for cost saving.
It's called Coaching Prosperity School.
Mm-hmm.
There's more about it at stevechandler.com. And Time Warrior, along with your other books, are available on Amazon, correct?
Yes.
And if somebody wanted to reach you to have you speak or address them or consult, what would be the best way to reach you?
Just on my website, it goes right to me, stevechandler.com.
I was so grateful to see that worked, because to me, this is a real victory, both personally and professionally, because I never expected, let me rephrase that, I was hoping that we might be able to connect, because this is a message I'd like to share with so many. I want to thank you for joining us. I hope you'll join us again soon for some tips. I'm Terry Murphy with Realty Times Women in Business, Women in Real Estate, and the Women's Wisdom Network. Thanks for joining us. Join us again for some more great tips from Steve Chandler.